All right, so obviously we're here tonight for an information session regarding Ramlegh Recreation Reserve and the formation of a new soccer club. My name is James Doherty. I'm the Community Sport Coordinator at the City of Casey. I'm joined by Megan Mayman, the Head of Clubs and Community Engagement from Football Victoria. She will speak a bit in about 10 minutes or so once I've done talking, so I'll introduce her a bit more then. But it's great to have such a large number of people here tonight. We're originally planning and doing this in person at Ramlegh Reserve, but obviously restrictions didn't allow that. So we've joined online tonight. Before we begin and go through some housekeeping for the evening, the City of Casey proudly acknowledges the traditional owners, Casey Aboriginals communities and their rich culture, and pays respect to their elders past, present and future. We acknowledge Aboriginal people as Australia's first peoples and as the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we work and live. Now, we've placed everyone on mute as we present the information for you tonight. This is ensuring there are minimal distractions as we go through. At the conclusion, we'll invite you to take yourselves off mute and ask any questions you may have. Hopefully myself and Megan can answer as many as you can bring to us, but yeah, happy to take any offline and get back to you if we can't answer them tonight. We do ask though, if you have something that you would like to raise that isn't related to the formation of a new soccer club at this reserve or are an existing club or user group, please contact council tomorrow to discuss it further then. So tonight we'll be working through the following. We just want to provide you with a general overview of what we're doing here at this reserve. I want to provide you with some details on the reserve itself. So, you know, the assets on site, the pavilion, what's in there, the vision for the new soccer club, a call to action for a working group to drive the new club process with Football Victoria and the City of Casey. And obviously we'll present Megan from Football Victoria and their role as a state sporting association, and she'll outline the new club process for you. And then we'll get into a Q&A session. I'm really looking forward to that and that discussion. We really want to get through information to you, but then we really want to hear from you guys and have that conversation tonight. So as I'm sure you're all aware, Ramlegh Recreation Reserve was finished this year and is a great asset to the community. Our vision and strategy is for a new soccer club to be built by the local community for the community. This is to ensure the club represents the local area and provides equal opportunity to all who wish to get involved. The facility is currently supporting a rugby club who are displaced from their reserve in Clyde that is being fully redeveloped at the moment. Once that is complete next year, they will move back. Ramlegh Recreation Reserve will be the home to a new soccer club, and that's why we're here tonight. Council and Football Victoria staff are here to support you and the working group throughout the process. There's quite a bit to get through, so we'll be here and along the ride with you. So moving on to Ramlegh Recreation Reserve and what's there. I'm sure a lot of you have been on walks and had a look around the reserve and fully utilised it, but it's one of our newest ones. It was finished this year. It's an exciting space. The reserve itself obviously has 2 cricket ovals and 3 soccer pitches that also fit into the fence line. All 3 soccer pitches are full size and fully floodlit. There is car parking, cricket nets, a playground, which is obviously fantastic. The pavilion itself has 6 female-friendly change rooms, 2 referee rooms, storerooms, kitchen, office, first aid room, social room, and an electronic scoreboard just outside the main pitch. So the new soccer club, the City of Casey has begun working with Football Victoria to support the starting of a brand new soccer club from scratch. Obviously we want to be doing that with the local community, and that's why we're here. We're obviously here to provide you with the opportunity to be involved in the club from the beginning. It is for that reason that we'll be not moving any existing soccer clubs into this reserve. The priority of this new club is to provide opportunities for all to participate. We obviously want to ensure that no one in the local community has that barrier and can be involved from the ground up. This includes parents, players, coaches, volunteers, and anyone else who lives in the local area. As we obviously want to make sure that you know, you're welcome and you can feel involved alongside the rest of the community. The reserve obviously is located conveniently next to Ramlegh Park Primary School, and obviously will prove to be an invaluable link for the soccer club. It'll be pretty exciting to see some kids finish school and head over to Ramlegh for soccer training after school. So that'll be pretty nice. But we hope after this session that we'll have a committed group to drive the club's application process to be accepted for winter 2022. We will hold a few follow-up sessions to further outline what is involved in running a club at a council-owned venue, and Football Victoria will be able to assist in the new club application process with the City of Casey. If you would like to be further involved in the formation of the club and attend the next sessions, I'll put the email address in the chat function. So please send an email through to let us know that you're interested, and we'll invite you to the next few follow-up sessions. All right, so that wraps up my general section. As mentioned at the beginning, after Megan speaks, we'll head straight into some questions. So feel free to ask anything you have. And also, if you have no questions, you're not interested anymore, feel free to log off and enjoy the rest of your night. But now I'd like to introduce Megan Mayman from Football Victoria. As mentioned earlier, she's the head of clubs and community engagement. I'll let her speak to Football Victoria's role in the community and as well the new club process. So Megan, over to you.
Thanks so much, James, and warm welcome to all of you tonight. Thank you for joining on an evening during what is a challenging time. So first and foremost, I certainly hope that you and your families are keeping safe and well, and that you're making the most out of this time with us tonight by being able to talk about football, which is something that I'm sure we're all pretty excited about, the possibility of having football at Ramlegh. I was very fortunate to meet James at Ramlegh pre-lockdown and had a tour of the facility, and it is quite impressive, and it will be so exciting to see some children kicking the ball and having a great time together early next year, fingers crossed. So tonight I'd just like to take you through what's required to create a new club, but I want to give you some context, and I just want to talk about there's so many different ways that you can play football. You can just have a kick in the backyard or at the park, but being part of a club is something bigger. Being connected to a club and being connected to a community of people who love football, it just provides so many more benefits that we all need at this time. The social connection, the ability to build your community at Ramlegh is just such a wonderful opportunity that there's not too many people who get the ability to do this. So I wholly encourage you to grab this opportunity with both hands and be involved. So whether that be that you be involved on the committee and go through this particular journey, or if you join the club as a player, a coach, a volunteer, a spectator, get involved at Ramlegh is the key message. So who is Football Victoria? Some of you may not know what a state sporting association does. We are the state sporting association for football and futsal in Victoria, which means we're the body that's recognised by the government, Football Australia, and in turn FIFA. So obviously abiding by those rules and regulations, ensuring that as a club, the key benefit to being affiliated would be that you're also then eligible for government grants, our national insurance program, having access to our full registration process, obviously our competitions, which is I'm sure a key focus of many of you on the call tonight. Access to different programs and resources, so things like mini-roos for our junior players, but also programs for specific groups, so those with a disability or specific multicultural groups that we might be willing to target, might be looking to target. That could be something that we also assist you with. And my team, which is all about club support, so how you govern your club, how you operate, giving you the tools and skills to be able to manage your club. So there are so many benefits to affiliation, and certainly very excited that you take the club down that path. So I just want to take you through a couple of things around our new clubs process, and I just want to frame it with there's a fair bit of information in the new clubs process. I don't intend to go through all of it tonight. We will send you a PDF document with all of the steps involved in detail. But what I do want to give you a sense of tonight is that through the process, we've tried to make it as easy as possible for volunteers. I'm a volunteer myself, and I understand that it takes a lot of time and energy to ensure that all the steps are done that are required to operate a sporting club. So we've tried to make this as easy as possible for you. So James has already started step 1 for you. And here's the good thing, it's only a 3-step process. So you're a third of the way there. So one of those, first step was all about was about the key demographics, what's at the facility, exactly what James has taken you through. The next step would be the formation of the committee. So ensuring that you have the people around the table, which is obviously what we hope to get at the end of tonight, and then starting to look at the more formalisation of the rules and process of your club. So the baseline document, so the constitution, which is a fancy way of saying the rules of the organisation and how you operate. A strategic plan, which tells you what are the things that you want to achieve during a potentially 3 or 4 year period. Budget, pretty important with a new club, and that's something that we would also help you with. We provide you with the templates in order to create a budget. If you haven't run a club before, there's always those things that come out of the woodwork and you don't know what you don't know. So we're here to help you to manage what are those revenue items that you need to be thinking about, but more importantly, what are those things that are going to cost you money that you need to make sure you've got some budget for. So that's something that we would help you with that process. So there's a fair bit to take in terms of whether or not this is something that you would like to do and like to be involved in. The key message for me tonight is that there's support on hand through Football Victoria once the new club is up and running and you're getting started, whether that be through how you operate your club, getting new participants through the door. We're here to support you alongside the City of Casey, who have been more than willing to provide the help and assistance that you need to be able to make this a successful club. I want to make sure that we're hearing from you. So I'll throw back over to James to see if there's any questions, but I'm looking forward to have more of a conversation with you about what you're thinking, what are the things that you want to see at the club, or some concerns that you may have, so that we can try and help guide you through your decision-making process. But thanks for having me tonight. It's great to meet you all.
Thanks, Megan. All right, so obviously, as I said earlier, if you have any questions that's not relating to the formation of the soccer club, yeah, please just get in touch with us tomorrow. But yeah, obviously, open up to you guys for some questions. Yeah, has anyone got any burning questions? Happy for you to put them in the chat. If you don't want to actually take yourself off mute and ask the question, and we can answer them that way. Also happy if you want to email them into that address in the chat function, and we can answer questions that way as well.
Hey James, it's Crispin here. So I was just wondering if we know what kind of demographic we're working with. Are we going to be using sort of a right down from the mini roos all the way up to adult competition, or that has to be worked out?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's probably something that we were probably going to work through at the next stage of the next meeting or so. But we definitely envision that the first year or so of the club will be in that mini roos, the junior competition phase. This to ensure that we make sure that the club can be sustainable from the start and has a true pathway to that senior level when the time is right. We obviously know that there's plenty of opportunities to play senior football around Casey and the neighbouring councils. And obviously with the Clyde or the Casey Rugby Club utilising the facility next year, it still makes sense from a sharing perspective to still be in that early stage of mini roos and juniors. So that's where we see that first year, and that's where when we get to the next stage, when we get talking about competitions and team entries and those sorts of things, it will definitely be around junior team entries. So we'd love to see the kids utilising the facility. And then there's no reason why senior men and women can't get involved. It's just that we're probably looking at the senior men later on. If women's teams want to get involved early, that's fine. But we'll definitely work through that later on. I think we've also got another question in the chat. I've got two. How is the committee going to be established? So, Megan, do you want to touch on this one at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So based on the interest that would be garnered from this group, then there would be another meeting to then work out, okay, well, giving you a little bit more information about what the roles and responsibilities would be, and more detail then around the time commitment and what skill sets are around the group. That would be the next conversation. One of the key things that we have around committees as well, particularly new committees, is that we are looking for 50-50 gender balance. And if that can't be achieved by a newly entering club, it would be what's the plan to achieve 50-50 gender representation. So from my perspective, in terms of the establishment of the committee, first and foremost, it's understanding how many people want to be involved. We're obviously not looking for a committee of 20. So it's just ensuring that there's no right or wrong in terms of numbers. If you've got 10 people, then great. Let's get 10 people involved, because there'll be a lot of work to do. So more numbers to share the load. So that would be the key thing, is through that process, and City of Casey would then be working with you to help form that group of okay, what's the skill sets that are required across the committee.
Thanks, Megan. The next question was, when were you thinking of starting the club? So I probably should have touched on the timelines a bit better, but we said winter 2022. So that obviously the process has started to be considered for acceptance with Football Victoria for next winter. I believe the next step is to be completed by September 24. Am I correct, Megan?
Correct, yeah.
Yep. So these steps have to be done before the end of the year, and we'll work through that detailed information at the next session. Today's really about just providing you with the opportunity and a discussion around what we're generally trying to do here. Then we'll work into that finer detail around what needs to be done and by when. But obviously, winter 22, we want to be having kids on the ground playing soccer next year at Ramlegh Reserve, and that's the goal. What do we got next? So I think we have a question from Harleen, which is what I was touching on about existing user groups. If you have questions about your existing user group or club wanting to use Casey facilities, get in touch with us tomorrow and we're happy to talk through it. Stuart Webster asked a question around, have we got a club name? So that's one of the fun parts that Casey's not going to get involved with. That's something for the group going forward to decide. Your colours, your names, all the fun stuff, the branding and whatnot. So yeah, that's where we really want to step back and make sure it's a driven process from the club. It represents the local community, and that we're not going to have a say on that. So that'll be done by the community group that gets this process going. Shivani, what is the opportunity for kids? So obviously we'd love to get this club up and running for next year. So, and that's even more reason why we want to make sure this is a mini Roos. And mini Roos is, correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, it's ages 7 through to 11. So we really want to make sure there's a strong presence of mini Roos for boys and girls at the reserve next year, and obviously junior teams. So plenty of opportunity if the club's able to get those teams up and running.
And that's if I can jump in there, James, to make this really easy for you, that's step 3 of the process. So where we would talk to you about, okay, well, what's the demographic, what interest do you have in the area, and then we would work with you to then determine what age groups and whatnot you would be putting into FE competitions. Very much from a Football Victoria perspective, we want to see boys, girls, men and women. We don't just want to see one specific demographic targeted. So as in, we don't just want women seniors. It's got to be we want clubs that are thriving long term. So obviously that's going to take a little bit of time to build, but we want to see long term. We want clubs that are offering from juniors to seniors, men and women. We want to see a variety of people being catered for at Clubland. So that's the ultimate goal, which I'm sure will take some time, but it's important that we start somewhere.
Absolutely. All right. We've got a hand up. Yep, Sam.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Sam.
Thanks for the invitation, and it's really nice to be chatting to you all. I actually live just 2 minutes away from the Ramlegh Reserve,
Yep.
and I'm actually more interested in playing than joining the administration. Not that I don't like administration. Of course, I love administration, but I would love to join as a player first. I understand that you guys are starting off for the kids at the beginning. Is there any activities or any plans that you have for the adults join, just to as practice, or as is there any plans for the adults at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, there's a range of ways clubs can train and operate. There's not just one way of doing it. There's plenty of flexible opportunities and for competitions and just training at the like and club run initiatives. But in the first instance of this next season, it will just be the focus around mini roos and juniors. Yeah. That's not to say that the club can't, run into training sessions and whatnot. There's space for the club to train, and they can train how they like. Obviously, we just want to make sure that the club is built from the ground up so that there's a clear pathway, because often we see clubs with just senior men's teams and they're not sustainable because they rely on obviously that group playing every year. But we want to make sure this is built from the ground up and have a solid base. We know that across Casey that senior men's football is well represented. I know there's different forms of that. There's a lot more serious level. There's a lot more casual. So yeah, we can definitely have conversations around what that looks like in detail, but I'd be looking more at that different innovative ways the club can offer just some training opportunities in the first instance.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks, Sam. All right, I'm trying to get back to the chat if no one else, I'm trying to see, anyone else have a hand up? No. All right. Megan, I think there was a question, how to further contact you.
Yep, so any questions in terms of the new club here, that would go through the leisure address through Casey. But if you had any specific questions around club support, then I'll type it in the chat box, but clubsupport@footballvictoria.com.au is the best way to get in touch.
Yep, so I think there's a few questions around age groups again. That again, it obviously depends on what people actually want to get involved and enter a team. So it's hard for me to say we're going to have 12s and 14s because I'm not going to be the one running the club. It'll be the community running the club, and if a group of under 11s or under 12s rock up to the club, then they can enter them. So it's just up to the club and the demand at the time. Megan, there was a question from Philo. You talked about funding. I just wanted to clarify if the council will fund this process, or are families expected to pay to join? If they are to pay, how do you decide on cost? Also, is the community allowed to decide meeting days and times? So
fantastic questions. I can talk a little bit about funding first off, well. And then we'll work through. There's a couple of questions there. So in terms of funding, so to be eligible in most cases for Sport and Recreation Victoria grants and other opportunities that are available, sometimes different councils have different rules. I'm not sure specifically around Casey, but most of the time that you have to be an affiliated club to the State Sporting Association. So that's where I was speaking about those funding opportunities. So that can be for facility development. You're in a very fortunate position where you have have a beautiful facility that doesn't need that significant investment at this point in time. So there's other elements, so around multicultural programs or disability programs and funding that's accessible to run specific, might be mini-roos or different programs for targeted groups. So that's where I was alluding to around funding. And in terms of, I might get James to talk about what's the funding component from Casey.
Yeah, so in terms of what council can provide, these are sort of the discussions we can have in a bit more detail in the next session or two, but we generally do have a community grants program, so there might be some opportunities, and we can discuss in further detail later on around what these specific grants can do for a new club in the area. Being a new club, it's definitely, in certain grants, it does help being a new club because you do have startup costs, and the grants, I don't decide on the grants, I'm just letting you know that it does help to be a new club because you've got a great story to put your case forward to get funding. But obviously all clubs are volunteer run, they seek sponsors, their funding models are different from club to club. But we'll work in terms of that detail around, and one of the steps in Football Victoria's club processes around that budget. So that's where we can work through the line items, what costs you can expect, and that's something that council can assist with regards to what you can expect as a club. But we don't want to get too much into that detail tonight. That's more of a, you're asking the right questions. These are great questions, but we don't want to get stuck into that just yet.
The follow-up question there, James, around the community allowed to decide meeting days and times. I think that's a really important question. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's something that needs to come from the group. So it needs to be at a time that is accessible to the wider group and decided by you. So it's not up to Football Victoria, and I don't want to put words in your mouth there, James, but it wouldn't be council's I guess their decision as to when you meet and where and when and how. That's something that I think is really important that the committee determine, and being considerate of what everybody has on their plate as well. So meeting on a Wednesday night at 7:30 may not actually be convenient for everyone, and some people may actually prefer, because you're local, it might be that it's a Friday morning or whatnot. It's about you having that conversation together and coming to an agreement. Yeah,
and I think the potential of the first session, when I'm speaking with the individuals that actually email in, and we'll be able to work out a general consensus around time. We're obviously very cognizant that clubs are run by volunteers, so that means that there are times where we made, like Megan was saying, figuring out the best time to meet. So if that works best being out of hours and at this time slot, that's fine. If it's during the day, then that's fine too. So we'll just work that out as we get into, I guess, the working group that we've got to take this club forward, because we don't know exactly we don't know everyone's timelines and schedules yet, and workloads obviously with the jobs and homeschooling and all the like. So yeah. Alrighty. What is the maximum number of players and their age should be considered for a club?
So I can jump in there, James, if you like. So in terms of the youngest cohort that we have in our mini-roos program, so that would be more of a clinic-based, not competitive, so not an actual match, but a whole lot of training and skills and drills. And the youngest there would be 4. And from a competitive perspective, club football, they can start from 7. So 5 to 11, and that would be mini-roos club football, where they do play competitive matches. And then from 11, they're then playing competitive club football, so home and away matches and the like. So and obviously we go all the way up to as whatever age you feel to be able to participate. So in terms of the minimum number, the minimum age 4 would be to start mini-roos.
Yep, and I think that's where it'll be working in with the rugby club next year around utilising the pitches. They don't use every pitch each night, so there's adequate space, and there's a lot of green space out there at Ramlegh, so there's plenty of opportunity to train for the numbers that come in. So yeah. All right, did anyone else have any questions, Crispin?
Yeah, just I think sort of going on from that last question, do you need sort of a minimum of 20 players or something to start the club, or is that just something to talk about later?
Yeah, we can't control who's going to come in at the moment. We don't know what the interest is like, and that's where it'd be really exciting to have this club formed, and then you have the summer to get that, I guess, the advertisement out there, start linking in with the school. You may find that one day you've got no teams, and then the next day you speak to the school, and then you've got stacks of mini roos and junior teams that want to play. It all can happen very quickly, but there's not a minimum number that we're looking to say you have to meet 10 and then we'll give you access to the site. It's not about that. It's about getting everything set up to be correctly set up as a club, to be allocated at a council venue, and then we'll be able to go from there around. Well, obviously the club will be driving the team entries with the Football Victoria competition staff, but yeah, there's no minimum. So don't feel like if you only got 5 people that's the end of the club. It's not about that, and I'm not too worried about not many people wanting to play. I think there'll be plenty of interest.
All right, thank you.
No worries.
Sorry, I had a quick question. It's just
Yep.
about funding. Can you elaborate a little bit about the funding and how the budget's going to work? Just if you can summarize it a little.
Yeah. So there's no guaranteed funding from council. I was trying to reiterate that we do have some grants that are available to our current clubs and not-for-profit organisations. We'll set you up early on with the newsletter that gets sent out, so you'll be always notified whenever Casey grants come available or external grants. In terms of and I'll also be able to provide advice, and that's my role, is to provide direct support and allocate and manage the usage of this site. So every question you have, that comes straight to council myself, and we can work with you on that stage. We also have community grants teams that have writing workshops. So if you need help writing a grant, they can assist you in that. But for instance, we have like an equipment and training grant, which is up to $1,000, and it provides, sporting clubs with the opportunity to buy some, footballs or some jumpers or anything like that. So there are a few different things like that that can assist. But in terms of the budget itself, once we actually lay it all out, and there's Football Victoria have some templates, which is fantastic, and that kind of shows you, and then we'll be able to link in around what council expenses might be. But again, we don't want to get too bogged down in that stage at the moment. But yeah, great questions you're asking.
Thank you.
But I think it's up to as well, when clubs often set themselves up on membership base, so participants join the club and then a lot of funds seem to come in that way. Like I said, there's different models. A lot of clubs have great sponsors. There's different ways clubs can be set up, and there's a lot of detail in that question, Helene, and it's a great question. Does anyone else have their hand up or any other questions? I understand there might be some questions you might not feel comfortable asking at the moment. As I said, always feel free to send them through to that email address or give council a call tomorrow in your own time. Always happy to answer any more that we can. I know there's a lot of information. There's probably a lot of questions if you haven't been involved in the club before, or even in the beginning of a new club, there's a lot to go through. So tonight was just about providing you with the information and what's there and what the opportunity is and what we're trying to do. And we're actually really excited to see what comes of it. Did you have anything else to add, Megan?
Just that it is a wonderful opportunity. What a great great discussion. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight. I'm really keen to see what comes of this discussion and how many people are really keen to get involved. Hopefully there's a fair few of you so that the load is lightened by many people and lots of different opinions about how this club can be formed, because I think that's the opportunity here is building something that's for the community and by the community. So we very much hope that that you do want to be part of it, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you on the pitch then in 2022.
Well, I'll if no one else has any other questions, again, send through your interest to leisure@casey.vic.gov.au. I'll be able to have conversations with you. We'll be able to let you know when we're going to catch up again. Hopefully it'll be next week, because we've got to get moving on some items, but we'll work through the level of interest that we have and trying to work around everyone's schedules. But otherwise, I really appreciate your time tonight. I know it's a different way of doing things, but we really want to make sure this club gets up and running for winter 2022, and we couldn't wait any longer. We don't know how long lockdowns will go for, so we wanted to make sure we actually reach out to everyone in the community and see if we can get this club running for next year. All right, well, if no one else has any questions, and I think I think that's it, Megan.
Sounds good. Keep safe and well, everyone, and thanks again.
Thanks, Stuart. All right. Beautiful. All right, feel free to log off and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you so much, guys.
No worries. Thanks, Arlene.
Thank you. Take care.
Good night, guys.
Thanks, Sam.
Cheers.